The search is still on for the mother of Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie, Nancy Guthrie. Authorities are still investigating it as a kidnapping, but the Pima County Sheriff, Arizona Sheriff, is publicly calling out the head of the FBI over it.
In a new interview, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos is pushing back on FBI Director Kash Patel's criticism of the investigation that Nanos says Patel was given inaccurate information about the case, insisting the FBI was not kept out of the probe, and says publicly repeating these claims, quote, hurts the case. National correspondent Logan Raddick is in Washington with the details. Good morning, Logan.
Ike and Krysia, good morning. In Pima County, Arizona Sheriff Chris Nanos is accusing FBI Director Kash Patel of spreading misinformation about that investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Nanos, who has been criticized for his handling of this case, went on a podcast and critiqued Patel's public statements about this investigation, specifically his insinuation that local investigators delayed contacting the FBI.
Director Patel heard information early on that just was inaccurate, and he certainly doesn't owe me an explanation or a question or anything. He's the director of the FBI. But when the information is put out there that's not accurate, I think it helps, it hurts the case.
Now, we reached out to the FBI for comment about Nanos' critique of Patel. They have gotten back to us, but have yet to give us an official statement. Nanos also said the investigative team that began working the Guthrie case is still on it today, and that it meets daily. He says it is possible the person responsible for Guthrie's disappearance is still in the Tucson area. Now, Nanos says both he and the Guthrie family believe Nancy is still alive, but of course, this disappearance happened in February, and 5 months later, it's still being investigated. Back to you.
All right, Logan Raddick, thank you. Let's bring in our next guest. Leslie D'Ambrosia is a criminal profiler, and Chris Hinkle is a retired FBI supervisory special agent. Really appreciate your joining us. I'm going to start with you first here, Chris, in terms of some of the back and forth we're seeing with Pima County Sheriff Nanos and FBI Director Kash Patel. It seems like they are having a bit of a war of words. What do you make of it, and how does it affect potentially the investigation?
Well, I'm not sure how it's affecting the investigation right now. The majority of the law enforcement agencies out there have a great working relationship with the FBI. Yes, you do have a few here and there that, under the stress and rigors of running their department, and especially with some case like this of intense media scrutiny, get a bit frustrated, and they're looking for a way to kind of deflect some of that heat. As far as the FBI being plugged in, the FBI was probably briefed on this. There were task force members, which means they may or may not have been FBI special agents, but sworn task force members that were working on the task force that were briefed in on this case. And they likely were kept up with some of the information that was going, but it appears from just looking at it as an outside observer, the FBI really wasn't brought in to bring its battery of resources to the case until much later in the investigation, 3, 4, 5 days later.
I think that's an important detail in all of this. Leslie, Savannah Guthrie has made a fresh appeal to her mother Nancy's kidnappers to, quote, do the right thing in a video posted to Instagram. Take a look at that.
Our family is in agony. We are in a nightmare that will not end. Nothing about our situation has changed.
All right, Leslie, this latest plea, obviously very, heartfelt. You sympathize, but is it going to be enough to move the needle at this point in the investigation, do you think?
Well, I do think it's very important that she came out and made a statement. It's important to keep this case in the public eye. And listening to what she had to say, I thought she did a really good job of addressing what I would want her to address as a profiler, which would be the behavior of the offender, as well as behaviors of anybody who might have knowledge of who the offender is. So in that short statement, she was able to cover a multitude of people to whom she was speaking with. So hopefully someone who might suspect another would report information, as opposed to just the offender reporting information. So I think she did a really good job. and she should probably keep doing this from time to time to keep this in the public eye.
Yeah, and these videos are absolutely heartbreaking to watch because she's experienced so much pain. Her entire family, our thoughts go out to her. The Arizona Sheriff, Chris Nanos, as we've been talking about him, leading the investigation into Nancy Guthrie's kidnapping, vowing he's, quote, still positive the case will be solved even after 6 months with few leads. Chris, your assessment of where it stands right now?
Well, I do believe that the investigators are working diligently on this case, especially since it's such a high-profile case, not just locally but nationally. And I commend the investigators on the ground for working on this case the way that they're doing. I hope they are still taking advantage of the resources that the FBI has available to them. And my heart goes out to Savannah Guthrie. I mean, she's been through a lot in addition to the kidnapping of her mother, of having these highs and lows of some of the more salacious media outlets out there reporting, hey, we have this ransom note, and getting her hopes up. Those types of things need to be thoroughly investigated before they're put out to the public to determine what their validity is, because you end up putting more stress on the family. You end up having people chasing down leads that may not benefit the investigation. So again, my heart goes out to her. I understand Sheriff Nanos is under an intense amount of pressure, primarily from his constituents right now. And I hope that they are trying to have some candid conversations. And I would encourage the sheriff and the FBI director to sit down, whether it's through Zoom or in a meeting, and just have a quick chat and clear the air on this so that they can benefit this investigation and put as many resources as needed.
All right, Leslie, just final question to you quickly. Do you believe that Nancy Guthrie is still alive? You're a criminal profiler. It's been 5 to 6 months. What are the realistic chances?
I think the likelihood is low given her victimology and the fact that she had poor health, according to the family, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that the investigation would put the brakes on in any way, shape, or form. I'm sure these professionals on the ground are working very hard to try to determine what happened to her and to perhaps recover her. And I believe the family has indicated that they don't expect that there would be a positive outcome with respect to her being alive as well. But there's so much to be done, and there's a lot that is being done with regard to analysis, forensic analysis of the items collected from the crime scene. So
Yeah.
I think we'll hear more in the future as to what's going on with this case.
Yeah, well, hopefully there's some closure one way or another in this heartbreaking situation. Leslie D'Ambrosia, Chris Hinkle, thank you for your insight today.